You know that game, Would You Rather? Would you rather have 2 foam arms or be constantly followed everywhere by 10 ducklings? My feelings about privacy and personal data on my smartphone kind of remind me of this game. Would I rather give up my smartphone or agree to carry around a bunch of little spies in my pocket? This is my Android. I've downloaded 57 apps: Facebook, WhatsApp, The Guardian, Fitbit, Twitter, Spotify. When I download an app, I have to accept the terms of service, but I rarely read them. To find out which apps are tracking me, I installed another app. It warns me if data is shared without my knowledge. According to that app, 30 of the 57 applications I've downloaded access data that concerns my private life. For example, social networks access my contacts to suggest new friends. Without this data, the application wouldn't really work. Sometimes it's really surprising. As far as I know, my flashlight doesn't need my personal data to function, but it does access my UDID. That stands for Unique Device Identifier, which every phone is given when it's manufactured. This UDID, like you, is unique in the world. My flashlight transmits it to advertisers, and they use it like a browser cookie. Tracking my UDID lets them learn my mobile habits and send me targeted advertisements. Right now, I'm at a cafe where I live. That fact is shared with huge advertising companies that collect millions of smartphone user profiles. We asked Harlow Holmes to explain how the apps go about collecting our data.
The way that apps work and of course Android and iOS and Windows phones and Blackberries, they all have slightly different ways of doing it, but ultimately they're what are called permissions. And these permissions, if you grant them, allow a specific app access to what's called an API. It's kind of like a door. You want to open the door to the contacts, you ask the API and it gives you what you need. Angry Birds was one such app that, in addition to asking for access to the stuff that we'd expect, such as the gyroscope, in order for you to play the game, they also asked for access to your contacts. And by giving them that, you're allowing them to go into your phone and to make use in whatever way that they deem fit of the people that you know and how they can be contacted. That same thing that we're afraid of political actors making use of our contacts just to understand exactly who's connected to whom and how and when and possibly why, is also used by advertisers in order to sell us more products, in order to determine who among your friends has the most influence, that kind of a thing. It's a matter of who's asking the question and why are they asking this question.
And then there's the data, which is collected based on my whereabouts. In the next video, we'll learn why my geolocation is a goldmine of data. This is me, at work, at home, at the dentist, on vacation, at the park. In my history, I can find all of the places I've been in the last few days, the last few weeks, even the last few months. Nothing is missing. I wondered how Google could follow me so precisely, so I asked them. Google replied,
"We use various technologies to locate you, including IP address, GPS signals, and other sensors that allow us to identify particular devices, Wi-Fi access points, and cell towers in the vicinity.
I can disable this history, but Google tells me,
This does not delete the data it contains. Neither does it disable the updating of the position, GPS, or Wi-Fi location services of your device."
It isn't just Google tracking my location. Of my 57 apps, 31 have continuous access to my location. This is useful for getting the bus schedule or to count how many steps I've taken today. But when my flashlight app, my games, or my newspaper tracks where I'm drinking my morning coffee, that's not something that's very useful to me, but it certainly is to advertisers. Members of the Guardian Project, who help citizens and activists protect data that's on their phones, explain to me how it works.
The most fundamental information that someone can find out about you from your phone comes from the phone part of the smartphone. As you move through a city, it's constantly pinging to find the best tower, or being told, hey, connect to this tower, or negotiating a triangulation, constantly broadcasting a beacon of you, of your phone's unique identifier. It's unique on the planet. Once you connect, the identifier of your phone and the SIM card, which is your subscriber identifier, the way you pay for things, those numbers are combined and sent to the phone company. And then that's logged as a way to charge you, right, for payment. And then once you get into the smartphone layer, just think of all the sensors that we use to make sure we stay fit and track our lives. All of that data is stored on your phone, logged in your photos or in unencrypted databases, data which paints a picture of you, your day, what you're interested in, where you've been, who you've talked to. This is a gold mine of information for people that want to sell you things, obviously. For people that want to monitor the state of their nation or their company or whatever body they manage, this is also very useful information. And then for someone who's trying to do targeted surveillance of you, if you are under investigation, essentially you're pre-bugged, you're pre-tapped. If the police came and said, we're going to put a camera in your living room and your bathroom and your bedroom and on your backpack and in your hat, but we're not going to turn them on unless you commit a crime. I don't think people would let that happen, but we have. That's what the phones essentially are.
When you use your phone's Wi-Fi in a public place, you're sending out a lot of information about yourself. You'll see how it works in our next video. Every morning, I go to a cafe and order a coffee and croissant. I connect to the Wi-Fi before I even open the newspaper. Usually it's free. The list of networks I connect to tells a story of my life. The network at my gym, the one where I work, and the one at my cafe. I wanted to know more about these wireless networks. I looked through the documents given to cafes and other places where they want to install hotspots. I read, your clients are likely to leave their Wi-Fi enabled. This is a valuable opportunity for understanding who they are, how they move around, and what for. In the long run, this technique will improve the profitability of your business. Facebook will soon offer us free Wi-Fi in certain hotels, but only if we log in with our Facebook accounts. That will allow access to all of the data about our stay. And of course, Google already supplies Starbucks. While doing my research, I came across a little story. To access the free Wi-Fi in a London cafe, customers had to accept terms of service that included a clause called Herod. This clause stated that the connection would be made only if the recipient agreed to give up their oldest child for eternity. What did the parents do? They connected to the internet. Of course, the IT security company that conducted this study admitted it was an experiment, and the children were allowed to remain with their families. The purpose of the stunt was not to abduct children, but to encourage us to read the provider's terms before connecting to free Wi-Fi.
So the mobile phone is actually a computer, but it's a computer you have no control over, right? So it actually is communicating with cell towers, Wi-Fi networks, Bluetooth. Way more data than you think is being taken by everybody on your phone, whether it's Apple operating system or the apps, or whether it's the cell phone carrier or Wi-Fi networks that you walk by that are collecting your information. And so it's really truly a device that is like uncontrollable. It's transmitting in all different ways, and you can't really see what it's sending out about you.
My smartphone is one of my most personal possessions. Until now, I thought my secret code was enough to protect it. I don't want to see it fall into the hands of a stranger, or frankly, even the people I'm close to. It has my photos, my emails, my texts, my appointments, my contacts, even the secret recipe for my favorite soup.
If somebody collects 4 unique location data points from you, they can 98% of the time actually identify you personally.
My phone and your phone is going to be different because our patterns of usage are totally different.
Only I go to my home, my office, and like the same coffee shop every day. And so even though those data points on their own can be described as anonymous, in fact, the totality of the data is not anonymous.
We both have apps that know when we're active and for how long, how we engage with those things. That leaves a trace. The number of apps that I have on my phone versus the number of apps that you have on your phone, that also leaves a trace.
If your city is constantly being filmed and sensors are tracking you as you walk around with your mobile phone, are you more or less likely to attend a protest? Are you more or less likely to go into the street and have your voice heard about something that might be oppositional to your government? And one of the things that happened in the Ukraine earlier this year during a peaceful protest is that thousands of people walking in the street in peaceful protest get the same text message that said, you have been registered as an illegal participant in a street protest. Now, that's a pretty terrifying thing to get, because what it means is that, first of all, you are being tracked, you are being observed, and that your participation has been recorded. How does that change the way you might want to engage in protest in future? That has a serious, or has at least the risk of being a serious chilling effect. What are the things where having some kind of anonymity, or at least some kind of ability to not permanently be recorded? What do we lose if we give that up?
The more my applications know me, the better they work. This is exactly what Rand Hindi says, France's leading thinker on data collection.
Pour anticiper ce genre de besoin, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va prendre par exemple la donnée géolocalisation, à partir de laquelle on va arriver à déterminer les habitudes de vie des gens, ainsi que les endroits où ils sont en ce moment. On va croiser ça avec des données par exemple d'accéléromètre, pour comprendre que d'habitude quand quelqu'un va à un rendez-vous, il y va en taxi, et donc c'est plus important de lui proposer un taxi qu'autre chose. En fait, l'accéléromètre permet de prédire le mode de transport. Mais on va aussi prendre des informations du calendrier. Donc on va commencer à faire de l'analyse de langage naturel sur le calendrier pour comprendre que quand on dit rendez-vous avec Olivier, qu'il s'agit du Olivier de telle entreprise et donc que du coup l'adresse qu'on n'aura pas mis dans son événement sera à tel endroit. Et par-dessus ça, on va aussi regarder par exemple les emails et pourquoi pas les réseaux sociaux. Et c'est en croisant toutes ces données-là, avec des données environnementales comme la météo, les informations de transport, qu'on va permettre en fait de recréer le contexte dans lequel se trouve l'individu. Et à partir de ce contexte, on peut prédire ses intentions.
Can you imagine if we let the police spy on us the way our phones do?
I tried almost every possible way to get out of mobile phone tracking. I set up a fake name. I got a phone under that fake name so that I could carry a phone that wasn't attached to my identity. But I found that basically I go to the same places and I make all the same calls. So ultimately the fake identity wasn't masking that much, because in fact what's being tracked is my behavior more than my identity, right? The behavior is my tell. And so therefore that was impossible to conceal if I wanted to use a phone, because the phone is constantly transmitting to all sorts of people and I don't have an ability to sort of say, oh yes to this connection and no to that one. It's sort of a binary on-off. The phone is either on and it's transmitting to all these people who I can't control, or it's off and I can't get any calls. And the problem is I am a mother, I have 2 children, and I kind of need to be reachable. If you want to have a phone in today's world, which is basically not optional, you have to be tracked and you don't have a lot of opportunities to turn it off. And so that's why it's not about personal choice. It's not that I made the choice to give up my privacy. It's that we as a society have not set any limits on the type of tracking that can happen. And so what we see is this battle between the industries over who can track us. And the sad thing is that we as citizens, there doesn't seem to be a proposal like, hey, how about nobody?
With everything our phones know about us, it seems like the future belongs to big data, which is exactly what we'll explore in the next episode of Do Not Track. See you later.